This was a video that I was super pumped to film just because it has been so transformative in my own life. And by bringing awareness to particular things in our lives and shedding light on certain things in our lives can really help bring more of those like light bulb moments, like where things just click, right? Because in a lot of cases we've heard a lot of the same concepts online. We hear a lot of, influencers talk about certain principles pertaining to personal development. We've heard a lot of the same things, but sometimes if you position similar concepts in different ways, it creates more opportunity for things to click in your mind in ways that they haven't before. And for me, this concept had done just that. So I hope it can bring the same to you and, just really help you find some new shifts in your own reality. It's not abundance that you lack. It's not money that you lack. It's not relationships that you lack. The only thing that you do lack, if there is one thing that you are lacking, it's awareness. That's all. That's all. And when you really simplify it and make it out to be as simple as it really is, everything becomes easier. Everything becomes smoother, faster. And I think that's what the primary goal is, right? Is just to start to accelerate the process of our own growth, our own journeys. And it all begins with awareness. And I think that the easiest way for me to break this down, and a way that I was able to break it down within my own subconscious and, help myself see some pretty drastic shifts, was to think of social situations. When we think about like social skills, right? If you look at a person who, doesn't have the best social skills, okay? Because my partner and I, like, we enjoy like reality TV, but not like trashy reality TV, right? Where it's like focused on like drama, but more, like sports documentaries, business reality like Shark Tank and stuff like that. But not again when it's like, like Love Island or some shit where it's just like, it's just drama, like that's just toxic. When you think about, social situations, when you observe someone who maybe has poor social skills, like what does that refer to? When someone has poor social skills, it means essentially that they're unaware of their own behavior. Maybe you came on too strong, you said too much, or, you're in your own head and you start thinking too much. And as a result, you're not very present in the conversation, or, you might say a joke that, just took it too far because you were unaware of how that might make someone else feel. These are poor social skills when someone is unaware of their own behavior, right? So how would you help someone become stronger socially if they have poor social skills? You have to make them more aware of their own behaviors. You have to shed light on the things that they've been doing poorly and help them understand that, that wasn't cool to say, like you shouldn't be saying that, and help them recognize maybe other people's body languages and how someone maybe shifted the tone of their body language based on what it was that they were saying, right? There are so many little details that and examples that we could give, because there are so many, different ways to look at it. But essentially, to simplify it, someone with poor social skills is unaware of their own behavior. And in order to help someone become stronger socially, you have to make them more aware of their communication skills, what not to say, and essentially just bringing more awareness to their own surroundings and how people respond to their behaviors, right? So it's not the easiest thing to teach, right? Like to help someone become more aware of their own behaviors, because, it's not like reality TV where, there's like footage to review, so to speak, right? You're not like constantly filming somebody and show them like, look, like this is how so-and-so responded to when you said that, like that wasn't cool, right? So it's a little more tricky in that sense, but with time, a person can become stronger socially and become more comfortable in social situations, right? So when we talk about the concept of reality creation, right? And the fact that, we all have the same tools, we all have the same organs, we all have, right? Like a heart, lungs, kidneys, so to speak, like, etc. Like you get what I'm saying. Yet some of us live abundant lives and others don't. Why is that? Of course, it's a belief system, but our belief system is directly correlated to what we are aware of, to what we see. And a lot of us have the tendency to project our past experiences into the future. So, if like you've been burned before in a relationship, you might just have this belief now that, all men are dogs, all women are hoes, they're not gonna do nothing for me, I'm good on my own, right? And as a result, you become less aware of all the beauty that surrounds you. You get what I'm saying? So as a result, we've become less aware of so much that exists, and we've become blind to it, right? Just like someone with poor social skills in a social environment, they are blind to, the way that they're making other people feel uncomfortable. Hence why we would consider them to have poor social skills. Like if you're making people around you uncomfortable, just saying too much or, just being awkward, it's because there's so much that you're unaware of. And the same goes for manifestation. If your life isn't the way that you want it to be right now, it's not because you're incapable, it's because you are blind to the beauty that you are connected to. So I pose the question again. If you were to teach someone how to become stronger socially, how would you even approach that, right? Because it's not something that's gonna happen overnight, like where someone can just, suddenly become so much more comfortable socially. It takes time. This analogy really did help me click a lot of things in my mind, and I hope it can do the same for you, because you have all the tools that you need already. Everything exists, everything is at your disposal. You're just unaware of it. And that's okay, because the good news is that it can be acquired, right? It takes time, it takes persistence, but if you're dedicated enough, you can develop yourself and become more aware of the power that is greater than you, because this power is literally available to you to use at all times. How much of it we use, right? I mean, that's dependent on us. But when you look at someone who is, living in lack, and someone who is financially free and can live life with absolutely no restrictions, is because that person is aware that money actually isn't real. It's an energy. All that we can see is just the tiniest fraction of what actually exists. So if we make ourselves dependent on only believing what it is that we can see outside of ourselves, we are depriving ourselves of some of our greatest abilities and our greatest gifts. And abundance is at the disposal of all of humanity. But so many of us, most of us, right, have been conditioned to think otherwise. We live in a scarcity mindset, and we associate money with survival, because people who don't have much money think that money is used for survival. They think money is used to pay bills, whereas people who are more aware of abundance understand that money can be used as a tool to create more money and to do powerful things, to put people in great positions, to co-create. It's a completely different perception. How do you become more aware of abundance? Well, the first step I always say is, right, in stillness, because it's so much more unlearning that we have to do as opposed to learning itself. And in stillness is when, you can essentially just observe the way that you think, the way that you feel, without being judgmental by any means, because again, a lot of the thoughts and the ideas that come to us aren't even our own. They've been projected onto us, and before we even had a chance to consciously develop ourselves, we accepted so many different ideas and beliefs that just didn't serve us. So I think stillness is the perfect place to begin to raise your awareness to what it is that exists. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it is, Hello.
Hello.
But yeah, man, if you just think about, your journey, even as the way that you've been able to interact with people, when you think about, earlier days in school, maybe, you might be a lot more awkward, a lot more soft-spoken, and many of us still are, and that's okay. But we've all still come a long way as far as, the way that we used to interact with people, say in like, junior high, middle school, high school. It's because slowly, without even realizing it, we developed a stronger sense of awareness of how we should interact with people, how we should conduct ourselves with class, how we should speak, how to be polite, how not to offend people, how to respect one another. All of these things are tied into the concept of awareness, right? Without awareness, you would not have been able to develop more conscious behaviors socially, right? So now in the form of reality creation, it's the same deal. You have to become more aware of your own energy, your own emotions, your own frequency, the way that you feel, the way that you think, and whether or not you allow certain ideas and thoughts to have a direct impact on your emotions and how it is that you carry yourself throughout the day, right? And I think, for myself personally, traveling has been, very transformative for my life. I think, when we talk about investments, because I think when people view traveling and all that comes with it, it's often perceived as an expense. And, I'm grateful. I'm actually in Indonesia right now. I've been traveling across Southeast Asia for the last little while. And traveling has been so transformative for me because I've been exposed to so many different things on both ends of the spectrum, where people with an abundant mindset and, plenty of people in a scarce mindset and what the result of that looks like. But as I said, if you talk about like investments and, perceiving traveling as an expense, so to speak, I'll never be the same again, just because of how much I've been able to expose myself to, again, on both ends of the spectrum, witnessing what a scarcity mindset can look like to the extreme, and what an abundant mindset can look like and where it comes from and how it's accessible to any person. And it's not what we've made it out to be, right? Those people just think differently because they see more. They're not blind to what so much of humanity is blind to, which is that abundance is accessible to all, right? When you think of abundance as like a waterfall, it's just a constant stream of nature just flowing and cleansing itself and flowing, right? It's just constant. I think within the concept of this video, the underlying example that I was giving was finances, just because that's been one of the bigger battles for me personally throughout my journey of personal development, my relationship with money, because I felt like I always had this godlike perception of money. Like those who, struggle with money are on one side of the spectrum. Either you put money on this pedestal and you give it way more power than it should, right? Because you deem it to be greater than you. And that's where I was. Or, you're on the other side where like money is toxic and it's evil. And in order to have, large sums of money, you have to do bad things. And, you got to sell drugs, or you got to, hurt people, or, it's all like, it's negative, right? And, but abundance doesn't just refer to money. Like, I just want to be very clear about that. Abundance comes in all forms, right? Relationships, careers, just being able to wake up every morning and be stoked for like what it is that you're about to do. That's abundance, right? Money is just an extension of that and can contribute to this feeling of abundance. But more than anything, I think it's just like an amplifier, like it allow you to become more of who you are and, experience more within this reality, right? But I don't want this idea or, the primary messaging throughout this video to just all be about money. Money was just, the universal example that I can give, especially based on my own personal experiences. The number one place to start is to allow yourself to be still and to consciously make the decision to make yourself more aware of all it is that you can't see, right? Because I think there's so much power in knowledge, of course, but I think there's even more power in becoming more aware of how much more knowledge there is to acquire. It just becomes like this ongoing game with, an infinite amount of levels, which is super exciting to me because we can just continue to develop ourselves and become more aware of all that exists that we can't currently see. But the moment your predominant state allows you to recognize all else that exists is when some really amazing shifts happen, and you get to experience higher forms of love and euphoria, and it then translates into greater relationships and a stronger sense of love that you then feel within yourself that you can then extend to other people. And I think that's what this is all about at the end of the day, man. I mean, you know, uncovering the mysteries within this reality, sharing them with one another so then we can continue to experience more within this reality, and our neighbors get to do the same, and just becoming more and more intimate with the principle that we literally are all connected, all forms of consciousness, right? There are so many different worlds and lives that we all live, but it's all within one consciousness, right? And there's so much power in that. So just like our friend in the beginning of this video that we use as an example, who is just very, poor socially and just does not have the strongest social skills, think about the way you would guide someone to develop their own behaviors in social environments if they were coming to you for help. Like, how can I become like smoother socially? Like, how can I develop my behaviors in a way that is natural? Now take that same concept, the same way that you would teach that principle, and apply it into cultivating an abundant mindset. It takes time to become aware of these things. It's not going to happen overnight, but devote yourself to this process and you will raise to higher levels that will surpass your imagination, which is so gratifying. I think all of us realize that, because just remember, man, like where you are right now and the things that you're living right now, the experiences that you're having right now are things that, 5 years ago, you probably never would have imagined, right? But now, like, you're out here, right? So give yourself some credit. Look back on your past achievements to, develop a stronger sense of conviction within yourself and confidence within yourself that you are more than capable, because there are other people who've attained these things. You have come such a long way and you're only going to go further, man. I love y'all so much. I will catch y'all in the next video. It's KT.